You think moving on makes you lose her, but the moment you truly let go is the moment she starts losing control. Let that sink in. Because everything you've been told about attraction, about closure, about fighting for love, most of it is backwards. You've been trained to chase, to explain, to prove your worth. And you think that if you just say the right thing, do the right thing, wait long enough, she'll come back and finally see you. But here's what actually happens. The moment you stop reaching, stop reacting, stop orbiting her life, that's when her mind starts spinning. Not because you manipulated her, not because you played games, because you finally removed yourself from the game. And if you need reminders like this, real uncomfortable truth that cuts through the noise, subscribe now. Not for me, for you. Because without repetition, you will fall back into old patterns. You will forget. And this message is too important for you to forget. Here's what it really means when women go crazy after you move on. It doesn't mean you won. It doesn't mean she suddenly realized you're perfect. It means you broke the pattern she was comfortable controlling. And that is what shakes people. See, the biggest misconception you carry is this. You think attraction grows through effort. It doesn't. Effort without boundaries kills attraction. You text more. You call more. You explain more. You give more. You stay available. You stay predictable. You stay safe. And in doing that, you slowly erase the one thing that created attraction in the first place, your independence. So what's the hard truth? She didn't lose interest because you weren't enough. She lost interest because you abandoned yourself trying to be enough. Read that again. You stopped leading your life and started centering hers. That's called self-abandonment. And nobody, no matter how much they liked you at the start, respects someone who abandons themselves. Not her, not anyone. Now, here's why it happens. Human psychology doesn't crave what's guaranteed. It fixates on what's uncertain. When you were moving on, when you were focused, when you had your own direction, you were unpredictable. Not in a toxic way, in a grounded way. She didn't own your attention. She experienced you. There's a difference. But when you started chasing, when your world started revolving around her responses, her moods, her validation, you became predictable. You became available. You became solved. And the human mind doesn't obsess over what it has already solved. That's called familiarity replacing curiosity. And curiosity is where attraction lives. So when you finally move on, truly move on, you remove that familiarity. You reintroduce uncertainty. But not the fake kind, not the ignore her to get her back kind. The real kind, the kind where you are genuinely gone. Your attention is no longer accessible. Your energy is no longer on standby. Your life is no longer paused. And now she feels it. Not your absence, your detachment. And those are not the same thing. Absence can be temporary. Detachment feels permanent. That's what triggers the reaction. That's what makes her reach out. That's what makes her go crazy. But here's the part most men get wrong. They see her reaction and they think it means they should go back. They think, this is my chance. No, that's your test. Because if the moment she reaches back, you drop everything and return to the same behavior. You didn't move on, you paused. And she will feel that instantly. And the cycle will repeat because nothing actually changed. So what does it cost you to stay stuck in that cycle? Everything. Your time, your focus, your self-respect. You start negotiating with your own standards. You tolerate things you know you shouldn't. You overthink every message. You wait for replies like, your peace depends on it. That's not love. That's dependency. And dependency destroys power. Not power over her, power over yourself. And when you lose control over yourself, you lose your identity. That's why you feel anxious. That's why you feel stuck. That's why you feel like you're constantly trying to fix something. Because deep down, you know you're not acting like the man you're supposed to be. Now, let's reframe this. When you move on and she reacts, it's not a signal to go back. It's confirmation that your value was never in your effort. It was in your presence, your groundedness, your direction, your ability to walk away. That's what made you attractive. That's what makes any man attractive. Not perfection, not endless giving, not emotional overexposure, but self-respect. And self-respect looks like this. You stop explaining yourself to people who already showed you they don't value clarity. You stop chasing people who are comfortable watching you chase. You stop negotiating your worth just to maintain a connection. You stop. You stop. You stop. And in that stopping, something powerful happens. You return to yourself. Now picture this man. He doesn't rush to reply, not because he's playing games, but because he has a life that doesn't revolve around his phone. He doesn't over-explain his boundaries. He states them once and lives by them. He doesn't chase attention. He attracts it by being focused on something bigger than validation. He doesn't panic when someone pulls away. He observes, he adjusts, or he walks. That's the man. Calm, grounded, unshaken. Not because he doesn't care, but because he doesn't abandon himself to prove that he does. And that energy, it's rare. And rare things are valued. So what do you do from here? You stop checking her social media. You stop rereading old messages. You stop creating imaginary conversations in your head. That's mental slavery. You redirect that energy into your body. Train harder. Into your work. Build something real. Into your circle. Strengthen your environment. You don't need distraction. You need direction. Because direction replaces obsession. And obsession is just misplaced focus. You also need to understand this. Moving on is not about making her miss you. If that's your goal, you haven't moved on. Moving on is about reclaiming your attention, your energy, your life. And once you do that, everything shifts. Your posture changes, your decisions change, your tolerance drops, your standards rise. You stop accepting half effort, you stop entertaining confusion, you stop chasing closure because closure is not something she gives you. Closure is something you create by deciding that what you experienced is enough information. You don't need another explanation. You don't need another conversation. You need a decision. And that decision is this. I'm not going back to a situation that required me to lose myself. That's it. Simple, final, powerful. Now, here's where it gets even deeper. When she comes back or tries to, you have to ask yourself one question. Has anything actually changed? Not what she says, not how she feels in the moment, but her behavior, her consistency, her effort. Because emotions are temporary. Patterns are permanent. And if the pattern hasn't changed, the outcome won't either. You don't reward temporary emotion with permanent access. That's called weak boundaries. And weak boundaries invite repeated disrespect. So you hold your ground, not out of ego, but out of clarity, because you've already seen what happens when you don't. And you refuse to go back there. That's growth. That's maturity. That's power. And here's the truth. Most people won't tell you. The goal is not to make her go crazy. The goal is to become the man who doesn't need her to. Because once you reach that point, everything changes. You stop trying to be chosen and you start choosing. You stop fearing loss and you start embracing alignment. You stop asking, how do I get her back? And you start asking, does she even deserve access to this version of me? That's a different mindset. That's a different life. And that's where real confidence comes from. Not from validation, from self-trust, knowing that no matter who stays or leaves, you're solid, you're focused, you're moving forward. And nobody can take that from you. So if she goes crazy when you move on, let her. That's her experience, not your responsibility. Your responsibility is to stay aligned with who you said you were going to become. Because the moment you break that, you lose everything you just built, and you're back at zero. Don't do that to yourself. You've already seen where that road leads. Now choose differently. Choose discipline over emotion. Choose clarity over confusion. Choose self-respect over temporary comfort. Because in the end, you are the constant. Not her, not the relationship, not the outcome. You. And when you master that, when you truly understand that, you don't just attract differently. You live differently. So walk forward without hesitation, without looking back, not to prove anything, but because you finally understand your value doesn't come from being chosen. It comes from choosing yourself. And if you want more of this real clarity, real perspective, real truth that keeps you grounded when emotions try to pull you off track, subscribe. This isn't just content. This is a standard. And if you stay around long enough, you won't just hear it, you'll become.